Hey Beacon, welcome home to your Bounce Back Blueprint Community Podcast, where you are challenged to be, do, and have God's best as you thrive on your journey from setback to success. I'm your Bounce Back guide, Tiffany Huff Struthers, and I'll be guiding you on the journey by sharing tips, tools, and the tea on how I was able to bounce back from escaping death, healing from heartbreak, and finding hope in homelessness. And then I wrote an award-winning book all about it. And shout out to God, ever since I was courageous enough to share my story, my life and the lives of women around the world have been forever changed. And as a member of the Bounce Back Blueprint community, I'm called to teach you to do the same. So grab your journal and let's build this blueprint. Hey Beacon, hey, Happy New Year. I am so excited about this new year and what is to come. I am even more excited about what I am sharing with you today. And I am just really praying that the end of 2020 was a time of peace and prayer and reflection and recommitment for you and your loved ones. And before we start building the blueprint this week, I want to encourage you. I know that for some of you, when the clock struck 12 and the year changed to 2021, it did not change the fact that you felt like 2020 beat you down like you've never been beaten before. It didn't change that for you, when you get up and look in the mirror, you don't recognize the woman that you see. It doesn't change the fact that you are still exhausted with the truth that you tried doing all of the things and it felt like nothing worked or nothing will work even in this new year. And if that is you, then I want to both challenge and encourage you to grab the link in the show notes and schedule a breakthrough session, because I would love to be your coach this year, be your guide this year, and really work with you to be and do and have all that God has called you to through coaching. So grab the link in the show notes, bit.ly/ your bounce back guide, and let's work together to ensure that 2021 is the year that you not only build but begin to implement your bounce back blueprint. Now, today's topic is sleep your way to the top. Yes, I said it. Sleep your way to the top. One more again for those in the balcony. Sleep your way to the top. And I know that if you listen to other podcasts or if you're on social media, all you're seeing is stuff about the hustle and how you need to get up and go. And this new year, it's time to do all of the things. But I just want to really impress upon you the importance of resting, regardless of what goals you set, regardless of what you're called to do, regardless of what season of life you are in. There is nothing that you are going to be able to execute with excellence if you are not getting sufficient rest. And let me tell you how much of a challenge I know this to be for you and for me, right? I committed at the start of 2020, I told my husband, I am going to take the full final week of 2020 off. And he was like, okay. And I was like, no, I'm really going to do this. So I told myself that from December 24th, Christmas Eve, through the end of the year, I was not going to do work. Now, I did know that there were a few things that were pre-scheduled, that there wasn't really anything I was going to be able to do about them. But for the most part, I was taking this time to rest, to rejuvenate, to spend some time with family. And when I say I was resting, I was not only not doing work, I was not doing housework. I was in 100% chill mode. However, it took some time, right? Because Christmas Eve, Christmas, I was still kind of working, baking cookies and cooking. And not that that's work, but I was doing. There was a lot of doing, right? I went to sleep pretty much exhausted on Christmas Eve. I went to sleep pretty much exhausted on Christmas. But I did start to rest the day after Christmas. And then when Monday came, I went into full rest mode. I'm talking about I was in the bed all day. I have therapy on Monday afternoons. I took my therapy session from the bed. And my therapist really was proud of me because she knows how challenging it is. And there were several times over the course of the last week where I had to really work at resting. I had to really work at not picking up my laptop. I had to work at not trying to schedule things or reaching out to so and so or constantly checking my emails, all of that. I had to really work at resting. And I think that it was a not even I think it was a telltale sign for me that I'm not being as intentional as I need to be with rest. And I know that I am not alone with this. And so I am sharing this as the first episode of 2020 because it needs to be a priority and it's not something that needs to be seasonal, right? It's not something that happens only at the end of the year or only on Saturdays. This is something prioritizing rest and sleeping your way to the top is something that needs to become the rule and not the exception. And so I want to share 3 tips that you can use for creating the atmosphere or setting the tone for you to be able to sleep your way to the top. And I'm going to start out by sharing 3 scriptures that I think are just really aligned with our need to rest more, and that it's not something that is just coming out of the sky. It is something that is written in the word that God is, as I say, challenging and encouraging us to do. And so the first scripture is Psalm 3:5, and it says, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustains me. And the reason why I wanted to share this scripture is because I know that we feel like if we are sleeping, if we are resting, there is so much that's not getting done. And perhaps if we aren't working, then we aren't making the money. And then we are in this mindset of lack, right? But the word says that because we lay down and sleep, we awake, we can get that rest because God is going to sustain us. The second scripture is Exodus 33:14. And it says, and he said, my presence shall go with you and I will give you rest. That means there's nowhere that we are going that God is not there, right? He goes before us, in fact. And so we are allowed to rest, knowing that he has everything under control and we are covered by him. And then the third scripture I will share is Psalm 4:8. And it says, in peace, I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me to dwell in safety. In peace, sis, I want you to write that down. In peace, I sleep my way to the top. In peace, I will lie down and sleep. That means not just lay down and scroll on your phone, not just stay in the bed and be watching an Instagram live. No, in peace, I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me to dwell in safety. That's good. Psalm 4:8. All right. So here are my 3 tips for sleeping your way to the top in 2021 and beyond. The first is to prioritize. So we know that when we are prioritizing something or someone in our lives, it requires us to set boundaries, right? And so I want you to consider the boundaries you are going to need to set in order for you to make sleeping your way to the top and or resting priority in this season, right? Some of those boundaries might be having a time when you shut down, right? So a time when you stop taking calls, a time when you stop responding to text messages, a time when you stop scrolling, right? And you begin to decompress, right? Maybe that is when you start your prayer. You might do some meditating, maybe some journaling at night, but you are in your space, right? You are prepared for rest. And for some of us, that is going to be a new habit that we're setting, right? So perhaps you know you need to go to bed earlier, but you don't just fall asleep. Well, that might look like that scripture says, lying down and then going to sleep. So maybe you need to set a boundary that you will be in bed by 10, even if that means you aren't sleep until 11, you are resting and preparing for that. Another boundary that you might need to set is to move where you are charging your cell phone, right? I always tell people not to charge your cell phone next to your bed. I have a powder room in my bedroom, so I can plug my cell phone up in the bathroom, still in my bedroom, but far enough away that I have to get up and go into the bathroom if my alarm is going off, because a lot of people use the excuse that their cell phone is their alarm clock. The good news is they are still making alarm clocks in 2021. So if you are in need of one, then invest in an alarm clock or move your cell phone and its charging station from your bedside table or your nightstand and put it somewhere that's going to require you to get up out of the bed in the morning. And um in addition to that, shut off your notifications. Put your cell phone on do not disturb or put it on silent so that even if it is in a different area of the room, you aren't constantly hearing the buzzing and the alerts and the notifications, right? Another boundary might be that you need to start waking up earlier, right? Perhaps you feel like you can't go to bed earlier, you can't sleep longer because you have so much to do. Well, what if you decided to start commanding your morning, getting up earlier so that you have some time to do what's necessary before everyone else in your house awakes, before it's time to get out of the door or on the laptop for work? You can prioritize what's most important, and then not only are you getting more done earlier in the day, but you're waking up earlier, which is making it more likely that you will be able to get the sufficient rest you need at the end of the night because you're tired. The second tip is to prepare for sleeping your way to the top. Yes, I said preparing for sleep because let's be honest, we haven't necessarily created the optimal environment for us to get the sufficient rest, right? You may have a TV in your room, you may need new pillows on your bed, maybe you need a new bed, and I can tell you that the Sunday after Christmas, we got our new bed delivered, and I know that contributed significantly to the amount of rest and sleep that I got not only Monday, but during the entire course of this past week. And us getting a new bed was way overdue, and that is because I was not necessarily prioritizing my rest. So maybe you need to prepare the environment in which you are sleeping. Perhaps you need to freshen it up. You need to fluff your pillows, get on a consistent schedule with washing your bedding. And I know these probably sound like very simplistic things, but when we don't prioritize them, these are some of the things that are the lowest on our list. And because of that, we find ourselves waiting until we are completely exhausted to rest and sleep. So I want to really challenge you to consider whether or not where you are resting is prepared for you to get sufficient rest. It could be that your window coverings are not keeping out the light that you need them to keep out, right? There are a lot of things in the atmosphere that contribute to how well we do or do not sleep. Is the temperature right in your bedroom? Do you maybe need a candle or a diffuser or something of that nature? And also, even in preparation for setting the atmosphere in your room, I think it's also important that you think about what you're doing just before bed. And I know I already talked about boundaries, but what is it that you're doing just before bed that is affecting your ability to get that rest? You're affecting your ability to, really feel well as you are preparing to end your day, right? So, what is or isn't in your sleeping space, your bedroom, your living quarters that needs to be there or that needs to be removed? And then finally, you've got to persist. You can't try this one or two nights and then give up, right? You are going to be building a new habit. And for some of us, sleep and rest are not the easiest things. And that's why the boundaries and the preparation are so important. But even more so, you have to persist, right? Maybe it's going to take a few weeks or even a month, a few months for you to get to the point where you feel like you are recognizing the difference in your sleep and how you are waking up. But don't give up. Sleeping your way to the top in 2021 is going to be transformational. I promise you, this past week has just been amazing for me. And I'm so grateful that God impressed it upon me to give myself the permission to prioritize, prepare, and persist, even when I struggled with it on certain days or at certain times because of how important it is. And so I'm just praying that in this season, you are recognizing how God has created you to be and to do and to have so much more than you could ever even wrap your mind around, but it's going to require more of you. And for you to be able to pour, of course, you have to fill your cup, and you cannot do it without sufficient rest and sleep. And so I want you to this self-care Saturday morning, and whenever you are listening to this, I really want you to look at your planner. I want you to look at your calendar, and I want you to make sure that you are scheduling the time that is necessary for you to rest and for you to sleep. This is about the prioritizing, and this is about the preparation, and it's how you persist, right? So if you have things that are scheduled up until midnight, some of those things are going to need to go other places because you are now prioritizing your rest earlier in the evenings, right? If you have things that are scheduled from the time that you wake up, then some of those things are going to be rescheduled because you need to have some space in there for rest and for sleep. And so I want you to go and get your planner after you listen to this episode. And I want you to look at what's scheduled in your Google Calendar and what you have committed to already, and do some reflecting and some recommitment to yourself and to God to execute with excellence in this year, and to do so by prioritizing, preparing, and persisting to sleep your way to the top. I would love, love, love to hear your feedback on this episode. You can, of course, grab my email in the show notes and shoot me a message. I am on Instagram and Facebook, and you can DM me in these internet streets. My handle on social media, if you're not already following me, is at the Tiffany Huff. Would love to hear from you and connect with you there. And if you were blessed by this week's episode, please take a moment or two and leave a review. When you leave a review, you create the opportunity for other women like you to find this show and get the support and encouragement that she needs to build her bounce back blueprint. I am so grateful that you have spent your time with me today, and I will leave you with this. God is not going to play you, but if you refuse to prioritize, prepare, and persist at rest and sleeping your way to the top, you are playing yourself. Be blessed.